Welcome to a very special edition of Learning About Loans. Today with me, I have Miss Krystal Miles, loan
Hello.
officer extraordinaire. She's amazing. She's incredible. And today, what makes this so special is we are going to we're going to go spend more time and go deeper on a program that is freaking awesome. So the other thing that makes this more special is we are going to gear it both towards the consumer as well as real estate professionals, realtors. So a lot of times these can be like, oh, they're more meant for the consumer or kind of an educational thing. This is a real product that can make you money and get a home sold super, super quick. So today we're going to talk about, drum roll please, Miss Krystal, what are we talking about?
Our list and lock program,
All
technically
right.
list, lock, and save, which we will cover, but it's a way to advertise a discounted rate on your listing, which can drive more buyers to the listing itself. And it also, the biggest issue right now with buyers is affordability. And so this product really does help with that, in that with the lower interest rate, the buyer is saving on the monthly payment and bridging that gap between what they would qualify for versus what they actually want to pay for their mortgage.
Right. So in other words, the list and lock also has a twin brother, we're going to call it, called the list and save. They're not identical twins, but they're twins. So the list and lock and the list and save program both help with housing affordability, and it's done via the seller. So listing agents, pay attention. Potential folks that have a home that want to sell, pay attention. This helps you compete with the builders. So let's push pause and explain that real quick. So Krystal, tell me about new construction, and we'll wrap this in and why it makes sense. So if Joe homebuyer is going out looking for new construction, what are we seeing in today's market where rates, as the time of this taping, rates for the normal 30-year fixed rate, we're going to say are just 7% round numbers. Give me an example of what somebody might see today. If I'm out in the market and I'm shopping around, what are some examples that home builders are throwing out there to get eyeballs to come in and talk to them?
So builders right now, they're offering low fixed rates somewhere between 4.99. They were for a while 3.99, but those are done with what we call forward commitments. And so basically the builder is buying discount points, but outside of the transaction so that they can advertise a low rate like that.
That's
And so
exactly
what
right. So the builders are paying money. And in this case, the builders it's not quite the same. It's not apples to apples in this respect, but the concept's the same. The
Yes.
builders are paying money and
Mhm.
they're keeping their prices higher to then offer a lower, artificially lower interest rate to help potential home buyers be able to qualify more or save more, or just to get the phone to ring. Whether or not the borrower actually uses that, somewhat to be determined. To some degree, the builders don't care. As long as they're getting at bats and conversations, it gives their sales team the opportunity to convert a loan or to convert a buyer.
That's correct.
Why am I setting that table up right before we talk about our listen lock? So conceptually, listen lock, listen save. We'll talk about the difference in a minute, but help me out conceptually. What is the list and lock? So whether it's a home buyer that we're talking to or a listing agent, what does a list and lock ultimately do?
So the list and lock is a way to advertise a low interest rate for your borrowers, and it's done through seller concessions. And so seller concessions usually can go towards closing costs, but in this aspect, we're using it to buy down the interest rate for the buyer, therefore saving them hundreds of dollars a month in payments. And we'll actually review all that in just a minute. I have some slides to show you guys that really kind of deep dives into how this product works. And it actually clearly shows the advantages of this product versus somebody purchasing your home at market rate and with the full list price.
So, for example, and what just because I haven't seen this, like I'm seeing this for the first time with whoever's watching this video. What do you have a purchase price just so I can say numbers right now and be consistent with what we're about to see? Do you have one off the top of your head that you use for
No,
slides?
but there is a slide that has
Okay,
an
I will
example.
wait. Let's dive into this, guys. So again, conceptually, this is like a seller is doing the same tactics as the builders are, is they're able to advertise a lower interest rate, which then allows consumers to one be like, ooh, pique their interest to get more eyeballs on your home, which is what we want, right? So one, it's a fantastic marketing tool, and
Yes,
two, it's an opportunity that might help convert somebody that may ordinarily may be able to pass because the home was too much or the payment was not where they needed it to be. So it's a fantastic tool. So I have a lot more questions, but since something's prepared, I don't want to sit there and confuse us. So Miss
Okay.
Krystal, tell us about the listen lock and take this wherever you want to go. I'll start asking less questions and you start driving.
Okay, well, let's get started. So list and lock obviously advertise discounted rates on your listings, attract more buyers, and sell faster. And overall, this product is a really good thing to use right off the bat, or an excellent alternative to a price reduction.
So just to be clear too, and I will interrupt, this isn't a question. So as you get ready to share your screen, I want to let you guys know something. Miss Krystal was a realtor for 10, 12
12
years,
years.
12 years. So we got a person that's done the real estate side, knows the real estate side, and knows the mortgage side. So understand when she says these things, she's coming from a perspective of having a decade plus of actually being a great, wonderful, amazing realtor to now a great, wonderful mortgage person. So you share, I'll let you know when I see your screen. If you're going to share it now or whenever, I'll give you a thumbs up when I see something.
I thought I was already sharing. Whoops.
There you go.
Technical
So now I
difficulty.
see has started. So I see the, how does it work? So listen lock. Got it.
Yes. So if you're interested in doing the list and lock, you'll go to our website and you'll hit the sell button and list and lock. And then it actually, you determine how much in seller concessions you want to use. Depending on the product, you can go up to 6% of the sales price, but there are some limitations on product and down payment to how much the seller can actually contribute. But in all honesty, a lot of the sellers that we've worked with recently stay between 1% to 3% concessions. And even with just 1% or 2% concessions, you can get a pretty favorable rate. Now, the options that we have are lock now and lock later. The difference between the two is the lock now, you're actually locking in that low rate for 60 days. There is a one-time extension of 30 days for an additional fee, but right now, most of our people are taking advantage of this lock later. So you're able to pay a $49 deposit, which is refunded at closing if the buyer uses CMG, but that's what allows you to lock in that day's pricing and advertise the low rate, and then it's locked when you actually go under contract. So that's what the lock later is about. And then we actually provide you with a bunch of marketing material that includes open house flyers, which detail the down payment, credit score, and the interest rate expected with those parameters. There's a sign writer that can go on your for sale sign that says, you know, a rate as low as and whatever rate you lock in. And there's also social media videos that are created that are specifically for that house, and it shows the savings that you get with this program. And so once you decide to move forward and you sign the agreement, you'll have access to that collateral immediately.
Go back real quick for me. I think that I want to make sure I drive home that last part. So well, first of all, let's go back let's go in order real quick. So the Listen Lock website, I will make sure wherever you're watching this, we will make sure there's a link somewhere. What's really cool about the website is you can go in, whether you're a realtor or a homeowner, you can put in like, I want to give 2%. So on a $500,000 home, you might say, man, instead of reducing my price by 10 grand, I'm going to give them 2%, which is 10 grand, and want to see what that does to impact your interest rate. So it'll then show how much lower it can go. So the website's really, really cool. And you can give up to 6%.
Yes.
So that's the key there. You get to decide. You pick, and this neat little website will allow you to do that. And then the lock now, lock later, I'm sure you'll hit that in a second. But number 4 is the part I really want to drive home. Again, what makes this so freaking sweet is that this is a differentiator on your listing, whether you're the seller or an agent. The part of the reason why the $50, we're not doing this because we're not going to get rich off $50 or $49 here. The reason why is there's a fancy system behind us that makes awesome materials for marketing, both flyers, the rider signs Krystal mentioned can go on the house that says, you know, at this rate, and just as importantly, social media content. We've had one video had 30,000 views on social media when I think it was like Instagram when we posted it. So it makes really high quality content to market your home. Even if they don't use the product, if they see the artificially lower rate or they see save $300 a month or whatever buzzword gets put out there, they at least have the at bat because you only need to sell your house once. You can only sell your house to one person. So if you can get more eyeballs on it, chances are you're going to get more offers and hopefully a more competitive offer than if you didn't. And then the last little bubble on the left side, we as a company, because we are this darn nice, we do give 1% to like help to sweeten the pot even more. So if as a seller, if you're giving 1%, we'll pony up another one with you. Now, if you're ponying up 6, we're not going to pony up 6. We're still doing the 1. But this is freaking huge. I'm telling you, it's a marketing tool. It is awesome. Krystal, back to you.
And to that point, these fees are refundable if the buyer uses CMG. So really, these are just a little upfront fee that you do get back at closing, and anybody can pay that. The seller can pay that, the agent can pay that, your grandma can pay that. So that's the advantage of the way that is structured.
Love it. That's really good.
And then, of course, I touched on the lock now versus lock later. I won't spend too much on this slide because, obviously one is locking in it for 60 days, whereas the other one is a floating option, but you're still able to advertise, a low discounted rate. So
Just to be clear, you're advertising the rate. Even though it's not locked, you're going to advertise what it was that day, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's accurate because all the disclaimers are already on there in our social or on the disclaimer legalese. It says, as of this date and time, rate is not locked, but here's what it is. So you can honestly advertise that. And if they call and the market doesn't change, we still honor it, right? So if it goes up
and if the market improves, you actually get to take advantage of that. So with both options, if interest rates are better after you've moved forward with this program, the buyer can take advantage of what we call a float down. It's a free feature and it allows them to take advantage of the better interest rate at the time of contract.
Love that. That is awesome. If I had to make you pick, and you can say pass, I'll pick one if you don't. Is there one that you prefer, the lock now versus the lock later?
I like the lock later because right now rates are relatively stable. They're not fluctuating, in big waves one way or the other. And because it's a low cost of entry, that is the most preferred method at this time. Now, if we were in an interest rate environment where they were going up, you would absolutely want to take advantage of the lock now feature.
That's a much better answer than I would have given. I just told you to do the float, but you're absolutely right. If the market for some reason turns and it's not like it is today and things are increasing, lock that baby up. It's absolutely worth it. It's gold. In this instance, to your point, if the market's pretty stable, rates aren't changing dramatically, I agree with you. Float. And for $50, guys, wait till you see some of this stuff. Just seeing the screen now, I have a feeling it's coming. So what do we got here?
So this is a little video that it's kind of one of the collateral pieces that you get. We won't go through all of it, but I'll play it just for a minute.
And this is automatically done. Like you sign up, this absolutely gets like created. Is that correct? Like to where you can put this anywhere you want. All right, so this is showing, and I'm sure there's sound, and that's okay.
But there's some music.
It starts showing them difference of, whatever that example was. You go from this much to this much. Advertise the discount rate.
We won't play the whole thing, but there's some slides that actually go through some of the stuff too.
So this is telling you about the program. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll just skip past that one. This is for when we're actually like teaching classes or sitting down with agents.
Got it. Got it.
And so this is where we cover the steps on how to actually go through the list and lock and secure your pricing and your collateral. So once you go to our website, you would go to the list and lock, which is under the sell section. And then it brings you to this page where you would actually enter in the address of the home. After that, you're going to put in the sales price and the amount of concessions that you want. And you can play around with this. So you can start with 1% and move forward and see what that looks like. But there's an option to go back and actually change your seller concessions so that you can see at different concession amounts what the rate is that you could potentially offer.
So in this instance, so I don't have to squint, from what I think I see, sales price 500 grand.
Yes.
And in this example, seller concessions, we're going to give 3% for the seller is going to go to. So in this number, that's 15 grand. So then you push go, and this beautiful part is up on the website.
Yes. So it tells you the concession amount, the proposed interest rate based on the parameters that you entered, and then it gives you some samples of the collateral that you'll receive once you actually move forward with the purchase. Right now, all of these say sample, but the sample won't be on there once you actually purchase. One of my favorite things is this open house flyer. because it actually details, depending on what your credit score and your down payment amount is, what the actual expected interest rate is. And you don't even have to have these particularly for open houses. You can just leave it in your listing so that buyers have the proper expectations on what their certain loan parameters dictate as far as the interest rate.
And again, this is pictures of the actual house when this is prepared. Is that correct? Like they pulled
Yes.
from MLS. So while these are all samples, I have a sample and it's got some random cartoon, whatever picture, real pictures from MLS will get created. And these are custom made to the house. And it's done. I don't know how they do it, but they do it automatically, which is really freaking cool.
Yes. And this one's really cool too, because it actually shows you a little flyer depending on the concession amount, what the monthly payment is, and the actual monthly savings versus if they had the market rate. So
So
that's
just to read out loud, so on the 500,000 list price, if you were to give away 3% concessions of 15 grand, a buyer would save $750 a month, a
yes.
month
Because you're talking
forever,
about a 7% interest rate versus a 5.25. So
forever. So to put that in perspective, and I don't know the numbers, and then we should probably, I'll figure that out when you start talking on the next slide, and we'll come back to this. I'm making this up, but I'm willing to bet that's the equivalent of buying like a $600,000 house and getting that payment. You'd pay that much more. No, I said that backwards. I'm sorry. I bet that's like buying a $400,000 house payment. So to
yeah.
get a 5 point, whatever this says on the example, to get this 5 point whatever rate because of that buy down, you're giving your buyers 100 grand more of like purchasing power than what they otherwise had. So keep going with the second part.
Well, and this flyer right here particularly shows you that if you were to drop your price by 15,000 versus using that same 15,000 towards this program, that shows you the difference in the payment still. You know, people a lot of times right now want to negotiate on the sales price because buyers have negotiating power for the first time in like a decade. But really, what I try to impress upon people is seller credits, using that to buy down your interest rate is going to have a higher impact on your payment than taking that same amount off of the sales price. And so this really brings that home and puts that in your face to show you that difference.
Massive, just freaking massive. So
And whether
I,
you're utilizing this program or not, it's really a good idea to get seller concessions in this market versus a price reduction.
and so to say that again, because I think that's so important with new construction, because we work with builders. People think, oh, if the builder's giving away 15 grand in incentives. Let's say that's what this is. Think, oh, well, let's buy the house for 485. That just makes so much more sense. The difference is, and I don't know if that's, I mean, it does, it shows it right here. If you knock it down to 485, that left box in red shows the monthly payment at 3,300 bucks a month. If you say, you know what, use the 15 grand for the rate, 2660, 64 to be exact.
Yes.
Massive difference, guys, and that's forever. So as long as you have this mortgage, that's forever, right? So that's as long
Yes.
as you have this mortgage over time, it won't take very long to make up the 15 grand that you quote unquote overpaid on the house. The reality is you paid the normal price. The seller was able to help do this. And again, from a marketing standpoint, huge. All right, keep going, Chris. I'm keep interrupting, but this is so good.
You're fine. So this is just the technicals of when you actually sign up. You'll fill out that info on those two previous screens. You'll sign the DocuSign, make your payment, and then you'll have instant access to the collateral. So this is where it takes you as soon as that there is verbiage that covers the compliance piece in the MLS and how to advertise it for you agents that are listening. So we make it really easy for you. Just copy and paste it into the MLS. And there's other disclosures that's on the actual flyers and everything too. So you don't have to worry about being out of compliance with anybody. We've really thought about what needs to be done to have this on the up and up, whether you're a seller or an agent advertising this product.
Real quick. So it says MLS description and in parentheses for real estate agent use only. So if I'm a seller, can I come in here and do this like without my agent?
Yeah, if you're doing it for sale by owner, you can certainly do this. If you're using an agent, they'll still need to have this verbiage in the MLS. But, you know, if you're doing a for sale by owner, there's websites for that. You can still put the same verbiage in there because it's really a compliance piece to cover you as the seller or the agent.
So if
So
you
you're
have
gonna
a
want to
real,
use
if you're
that
using a
verbiage.
real estate agent or a realtor, have them either help you or have them do this for you is what I'm hearing, because they need to want this in here so that they are protected and they don't get in trouble. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, because again, guys, we don't care if you can do sell for sale by owner, great. But if you have somebody you're working with, either get that information or have them fill that part out so that way that you guys are okay and allowed to market whatever you want to market. All right, what do we got here?
This is an example of the sign writer that you can put on the for sale sign. It comes with QR codes that people can just scan. It takes them to information on the listings, information on the listing lock, and they can also apply from that page as well by scanning the QR code. The other cool
Nice.
thing is this is something that you can set up in the listing itself. Again, it's the same QR code that's on the sign writer. It just takes you to information on the listing. You know, it has the sales price. It takes you information on the listing lock and how to apply.
That's so. Does that take to like a custom page that gets created for them that has
Yes.
information
Yeah,
about
these
the
come
listing
with
lock?
single property websites, and so that's what it takes you to.
So it'll be the house with the house's pictures, have the information, whatever it's pulling from MLS will be there, and it also then tells them more about the listing lock. I love it.
Speaking of, there's
Wow,
the
look at
custom
that! You've
web
been
page
planned
we
it.
were just talking about.
Based on my
But
questions, you guys know that this isn't planned, so that was coincidence. All right, what do you got here? So custom page. This is what they see when they go to that QR code.
yeah, so there's a custom web page. This is actually an example of what the open house flyers look like. So as you can see, depending on the product type, the credit score and the down payment amount, it shows them what their actual interest rate would be. So, you know, when these are advertised, it's a rate as low as, so the rates can be as low as these, but this actually details the expected interest rate depending on the buyer's particular parameters.
Cool. Love. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that. Keep going.
No
We're
worries.
not, this is not edited when that happens. Keep going. All right. Paid social. What do we got?
So as part of the marketing that we do, we will actually pay for some social media ads for this list and lock so that on top of what your agent is already doing or what you're already doing as a seller, you get some additional marketing on social media on our dime.
Dang, I did not know that. So that goes on our social, I assume, that we're promoting.
Yeah, and I
Or,
think it's for, I'll have to double check. I think it's for 10 days. So it's not
okay.
indefinitely. It's like for the first 10 days that you subscribe to the list and log. But still, it's extra eyes on your house, extra eyes on this product. And it just helps drive traffic to you as the agent and the seller in your house.
And think about that again, guys, for $50. I mean, this is going on. So not only do you get all the
50 bucks,
marketing,
that's refunded.
it's refunded, right? So if somebody uses the program and closes on it, it's refunded. If they don't, it's still only $50 to
Yes.
sell a house that, whether it's 500 grand or a million, I don't care. $50 isn't that big in the grand scheme of things. And it gets you not only all the stuff, but now we apparently, good for us, we're even putting it on our social, which has a ton of eyes on it because we're a big company. Good for us. What do you got? What do you got now?
Oh, they're just little videos that show kind of like what the flyers do.
This is where one example we had got 30,000 views on social when this was posted, which is, again, looking at it, I'm like, dang, and that'll be a picture of the house that's being locked and with that information. So that, like, this is the example, but it will show real information.
Yes.
That's really cool.
So you get 2 automated videos, shows the buyers how much they would save this with this program. You know, it shows proposed payments, all this stuff. We won't spend too much time because these are all kind of the same thing.
I do like this video. I've seen this one, but you can save $39,000 in 10 years. So call it 3-4 grand a year, basically in savings. That, to me, again, I think that's the marketing. The builders use this all the time, right? It's just trying to show folks, here's what you can get, advertise the 5 point whatever when rates are at 7. So massive, so huge. This is incredible.
And to that point, if we have any builders looking at this video, we have a build and lock too.
We do. Nice little side plug. I like it. I like it.
A little plug in there for our builders too.
Yep.
Now, this is the list lock and save that I briefly mentioned in the beginning. What this means is that if you, as a seller, sign up for this program and then you pre-qualify with us for the purchase of your new home, we will actually give you a lender credit up to $5,000. So it's a point, it's a half a point, but up to $5,000 max. And so, whatever you might spend in the seller concessions to entice the buyer, you could make up on the purchase side with our lender credit.
I had no idea that was a thing. That is awesome. So just to restate, 50 basis points, guys. If you're listening and you're buying a new home and you let us help you, you choose us, we earn the right to use us in the next home. You get 50 basis points, which is half a point, which, you put it in numbers. If somebody gets a $500,000 loan, that's $2,500 credit. Again, that is, at some point I always will wonder, like, how do we make any freaking money? But again, at the end of the day, not your problem, not my problem. As long as we get it done, everybody's happy. But you can get up to $5,000. So that means on a $1 million loan amount, you can get a $5,000, which would more than cover most of the fees in most of the states. Some states like Florida have really big state tax stamps, but for the most part, guys,
use it towards your own rate buy down.
Use it towards your own rate buy down. Use it for anything you want, right? So that is tremendous. I had no idea. That's really cool. And that's with the list and lock, or can they do that with the list? What's the other one called? The list and float? Help me out.
No, so if you sign up for any of the list and locks,
any of the lists, you don't have to pay the $1,000.
This is just the additional and save. So you as a seller are eligible for this, and we lend in all 50 states. And what is it? Puerto
Rico and Virgin Islands, I think, too. Like, it's wild. So, but to be clear, you can do the $50 one. You don't have to do the 1,000 for 50 bucks. Not only do you get all this stuff, you might as well do it. And then if you use, even if you threw all that stuff in the garbage and never use any of it, 50 bucks makes you eligible to the, because it's only when the seller uses us for their purchase. It doesn't matter if somebody used that original one, does it?
That's correct. Yeah, they're eligible for this if they signed up for the list and lock program in general.
This is stupid. Just pay us 50 bucks and get thousands of dollars. Like, I'm going to rethink our marketing on this one. At some point, people don't even need to do the list and lock. Just pay the 50 bucks and then use us. That's crazy.
Hey, we just like to give back to our borrowers. We really do value our relationships with our clients and our borrowers, our agents, everybody, honestly. This is just our way of giving back to everyone.
This is crazy. That again, I always make the joke, you can tell these aren't scripted and you can tell these aren't rehearsed, because my gosh, that's incredible. All right. So what's all this? Is this more?
It's just FAQs. If you really want that stuff, we can send it to you later. We don't have anybody on this except for us, so we don't have a Q&A today. But if anyone's interested in a masterclass on this, let us know and we can get something set up, and then we can answer your questions live.
Krystal Miles, you are freaking awesome. And I would we'll put a link to the website where you guys can go in there and play with your own sample, and you can put your own personal house. You can put, well, that's not true. To see all the stuff pulled from MLS and the data, you would need to actually have a real MLS stuff. But for 50 bucks.
No, you could put any address in the list and lock and see if your house isn't listed. All
right. So even if your house is listed, you can put your address in just to have the sample rates show up. So you can see if you did give this many dollars. So even if somebody lives in a $300,000 home, just pretend it's 600 if that's what you're about to list. So you guys can see what that looks like. Or if you're a seller, put your real home, real address, real dollar amount and get to play with it. But if you're an agent, just want to check this out and play with it, put whatever you want. Just make sure that the dollar amount's correct. And then it'll give you the correct interest rate based on all the details.
Correct. And this is really great to use right off the get-go, especially if you're in a market where there's lots of other listings and inventory in your area. That way you can stand out and you can get in front of all of those other listings. But the alternative is if you've already listed your home and it's been on the market for 30 days or 60 days and you're considering a price reduction, this is a great alternative to that. You might end up getting less out of pocket by doing this program than doing a price reduction, because oftentimes price reductions are 10, 15,000. And so if you can take that same amount, and apply it towards this program, then
yeah. So instead of reducing the house by 15 grand, maybe you do this and apply 10 grand, or instead of reducing it by 20 or whatever it is, and your neighbors will thank you, because again, your house sells for more, helps, the optics, the comps, like, oh, it's not a declining neighborhood, and it'll keep the value strong. And that's why builders love doing something like this. Again, they do it through forward commitments, but they love it because then the price of the sale price of the home stays up here and doesn't start bringing it down, because when one sells lower, it becomes a nasty trend. So neighbors will certainly thank you. Yeah. So your neighbors will thank you, but hold strong. And again, to Crystal's point, and again, as a realtor in her past life, she knows, 30, 60, 90 days later, when you're like, man, nobody's biting. I would almost come out of the gate with this. Crystal, what would be your expert opinion? You're not speaking on behalf of your realtor and whatever disclaimers the real estate side needs. But if you were listening to this, would you try? So let's use our example, the 500 grand that we just went through. As a realtor, would you try this for 30 days, listing at 500 and see what happens, and then bring in the listen lock, or would you come out of the gate with the listen lock?
I would rather do it right out the gate. And I would honestly, and this is just me, but as an agent, I would pay for it because it helps me get your home sold faster. It also creates marketing materials on my behalf that I only pay $50 for instead of maybe hundreds of dollars. And me particularly, I live in a new construction neighborhood. So I'm competing with builders and their incentives. And so, especially in a high inventory area, I would come out of the gate with this product. Absolutely.
I agree with you. And just as importantly, if you are in the real estate community listening to this, this would be part of my listing presentation. Like, this is where I would say this is part of why I'm different. If you're interviewing 3 or 4 realtors, this is what I do and have, and present it as your own piece, right? Like, have the marketing stuff. Yes, it'll have our names on there, but the reality is I would market it out of the gate and say, here's what we will do. And instead of what Crystal just showed you for the 500 grand, I would sell the house for 515, because that's what builders do. They take what they want and they just jack up the price. Again, appraisal has to support it. But the reality is, if you can sell a house for 515 and then knock down the 15 grand, you're selling it for the same 500 you would have sold it for out of the gate. So I would probably come out of this and build in the listen lock price into the sales price. Try that. Then after 30 or 60 days, go to where maybe it's the 510 or 505 or 500 if you
I
have
agree
to.
with that because it's
So
harder to go the other way. If you've already done a price reduction and then you're like, and then you see this and you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that. It's harder to go back and raise the price 10,000 to try to build that in versus just doing what Mark had suggested and pricing it in from the beginning.
just price it in from the beginning. And if you're the most expensive house, people love that. I mean, we know how it's human emotion, right? And I'm not saying anything that you don't know as if you're watching this as a homeowner, and you're thinking about doing this, think about yourself. Like, when you go out and see a house and all of a sudden 30 days it gets reduced by 15 grand, you're thinking, ooh, that's a deal. Look, price it a little aggressive. Go bigger than what you think. Price this in, keep this. So now when you have this, plus if you do have to lower it back to where you originally thought you might have to do it, you're at least back to where you started. And so you kind of give yourself that cushion out of the gate. And then when you drop it, maybe you get a few more eyes, and all of a sudden, a few more eyes in combination with this, I think, can be a massive tool. And again, those social videos, go play with it. They're really cool. Like, we kind of glazed over them just for interest of time. But Crystal, I think this is the cat's meow. I think you did a fantastic job, because there is a lot to it, although it can be very simple. But to get in and see how it really, really works, I think you did a fantastic job.
And interest rate really does have the biggest impact on your payment. And so this really addresses the affordability issue that we're facing right now in our market.
100%. Well, if you need us, you know how to get us. Again, we'll put links around. Reach out if you got comments. If you've used it, we'd love to hear from you. If you hate it, don't comment. I'm kidding. But reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And as always, guys, we appreciate you for watching another episode of Learning About Loans, and we'll see you soon on the next episode.